allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The regular agenda is before the council. And I would entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the regular agenda. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The consent agenda is before the council, and all items with an asterisk are considered to be routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered separately in its normal sequence on the agenda. Is there anyone in the audience or any member of the council that wishes to either add or remove an item from the consent agenda? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion for its approval.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda as printed. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. The minutes of the regular city council meeting, which was held on September 10th, 2024, are before the council. Is there anyone in the audience or any member of the council that wishes to make any changes to the minutes? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion for its approval.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the minutes of the regular meeting held September 10th. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. At this time, I would like to introduce Amy Stearns from Project 412, and she'd like to give us an update on the trolls here in the Detroit Lakes and Detroit Lakes area. Welcome, Amy.
Thank you, Mayor. I just actually, not so much of an update, although we know it's been a giant summer in Detroit Lakes, right? But I have a little gift for the mayor and the council, and maybe for your new city hall. It is a collage put together by the artist, by Thomas Dombo, of all the trolls. And it is just a big, giant shout out to the city of Detroit Lakes for all their support for this crazy project. You guys were phenomenal. I couldn't have asked for a better group of people to work with the Public Works, with the park folks, with Sean King, Tom Goulon, all the workers, everyone who just was able to help when we needed a little bit of help. They were just amazing. And big shout out to Kelsey Clem too for helping get things through. And so just wanted to acknowledge this and to thank you all very publicly for all your support of this wonderful, crazy big project that we've had.
Well, thank you. We'll hang it up at City Hall here.
Sure.
Thank you.
Give that to you, Smart. Put it right there. Am I still on the agenda for the next thing?
Yeah, I'll grab it later. Go ahead.
Okay, for my next thing too now?
Yes.
Okay, so we also have another gift to the city to propose. This has gone through the Arts and Culture Commission and through the Park Board and through Public Works. And this is a small prototype of a statue of canvasbacks, ducks, that will be installed at a location that we worked with Kelsey and Sean and others on along the overlook between the Lodge and Holiday Inn. And it's by an artist named Jim Dolan from Montana. And we would just like to gift not this, but the bigger one to the city when it comes at the end of October, and would like your approval to move forward with that.
So with that, Ron, could we jump into item 6D, please?
Yes, the committee looked at this, reviewed it, and we will give consideration to approval the request from Project 412 to place a sculpture that we just saw down on the overlook, and the committee recommends, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the installation of the sculpture from Project 412 at the overlook area. Discussion?
Now, this is gonna be happening this fall yet?
Yes, barring good weather.
Very good.
So do we get to keep the prototype?
No, not yet. Maybe later. You're getting a big one.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. And thank you, Amy, and thank you to Project 412.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
I've got the next one on B there.
You know, before we get into the next item on the public hearings, I'd like to jump around just a little bit to accommodate some folks here in attendance this evening, and I'd like to go to Community Development Committee, item 5C. Matt, if we could.
Okay. 5C, consideration of a resolution approving or denying a variance to exceed a total allowable square footage of signs at 402 Westlake Drive, commonly referred to as Zorbas. This was kind of a interesting one, seeing this through. This was approved by Planning Commission 3-2. This came from a denial from city staff. This was denied last night at CDC by a 3-1 vote. So now we bring it to you. Currently, the expansion would be looking at signage on the north side of their building, bringing their total sign variance square footage, to 293. Currently, they're at 209, and anything over 184 needs a variance. Sean from the Planning Commission, or Larry, anything else to add to that?
Basically, the finding in the staff report was that the requested variance did not meet the state law requirements for granting a variance. It didn't show that they had a practical difficulty or something unique with the lot that would entitle them to have a variance, and so that is why denial was recommended by staff.
Yeah, and I think part of the discussion we had last night too is anytime you grant a variance, it's a property right that stays with that property into perpetuity. So we may like the signage that they're proposing now, but we may not like what they have in a year or 2 or 6 or 10. So what does that look like? And does it really meet does it really fit the harmony of the neighborhood with the residential, behind there and lighted signage and things like that too?
There are 2 resolutions in your packet, one to approve and one to deny. You would need to look at the findings in each of those and see which ones you agree with. And if you don't agree with all of them, then you would need to deny the variance.
Seeing that this was denied at CDC last night by a 3-1 vote, we're moving forward for denial on this, and I so move.
Second it.
Motion's been made and seconded to deny the variance to exceed the total square footage for a sign at 402 Westlake Drive. Cole, is there anything you'd like to add to the discussion? And if, just for the record, we state your name and
Yes. Good evening. My
who
name's
you
Cole.
are.
My name's Cole Hansen. I reside at North Shore Drive. I'm also a partner at Zorbas, and over the course of the last year, I've invested quite a bit of money in updating the exterior and the interior of Zorbas. And frankly, I should have submitted the additional signage in my original building permit, and that was my fault, and I take full responsibility of it. I think the project at this point looks, frankly, incomplete and poorly conceptualized. Once again, I accept full responsibility for that. I just would like the permission to add a couple cool concept-appropriate signs to finish off the project. With Amy here in Project 412, I know we're all committed to making Detroit Lakes the best version of itself possible. And so much of our traffic comes from the north side with People Street and now the pickleball courts and Finney Avenue. And I just would like permission to finish it off with a Zorba sign, because our north side really doesn't have any Zorba-centric signage. And then a few other brand building, message specific, irreverent marketing material on one of the 2 peaks, and the Zorba sign would be on the north facing tower. I was born and raised here. I know you brought up the concern that perhaps the next ownership group may do something different. I certainly have no intention of selling Zorbas. My parents started it, and I purchased the company from them in 2007. I have raised both my daughters here. My wife was a teacher for 15 years locally, and I plan on spending the rest of my life here. So for what that's worth, I take a lot of pride in the business. I'm investing a lot of money back in Detroit Lakes because the pride I have in Detroit Lakes, and I'm asking you to help me rectify what was my wrong. I appreciate your time, and I can answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions from the council for Cole?
So all of the signage that you were proposing on the north side, was that all lighted that you wanted?
That's a
or-
great question. I was going to address that. The proposed Zorba sign over the new tower will be a soft LED backlit sign. So it isn't going to be giving off, it's not going to be like the Kenny Roasters sign in Seinfeld, if anyone, if anyone recognizes that reference. And the signs that I proposed to be on the peak, there will be no additional lighting. So it's very subtle.
Further questions or comments?
I have a comment if I may.
Sure, go ahead, Sean.
I think the litmus test that Larry really references is something that's unique to the property. And we have examples of businesses that are on corner lots and have three sides, other places that don't exceed the signage. And that's what kind of makes it difficult for me to vote for this specific variance. However, I don't necessarily find myself opposed to looking at the signage ordinance as a total. I mean, and maybe there is a change that needs to be made, and it's always difficult, you know, when you're talking about calculating square footage and stuff. But maybe when you are a corner lot or have, you know, three sides or something, there's a different standard that should apply, and maybe that's the action we ought to take, is go back and look at it as a whole and ask, does this still make sense?
Obviously, I would certainly agree with that. And, you know, with the momentum that we've built in Detroit Lakes with, you know, we're putting quite a few murals up here and, you know, murals everywhere and painting everything. I could paint my building, right? And it would accomplish the same thing, but the painting, it can fade, it deteriorates, it doesn't have an extended shelf life. You know, these signs are permanent and they'll stay bright and vibrant, you know, indefinitely. So that's certainly the advantage over putting the signs up versus basically painting murals as another example of an alternative, and that's what variances are for, right?
Ron?
I was gonna say that we've already, Cole, have gone over quite a bit on this already with you. And one of the discussions that we had in 2026, we're gonna continue redoing Westlake Drive from the Legion down to Pavilion. And we're trying to get everything to look nice and cleaned up. But I'm just thinking if we allowed every business down there to exceed like you wanna do, all we'd have would be signs on Westlake Drive. And I don't think that's what the people want in town. So I can't support it for that reason. I think you got enough signage and you're certainly well-known enough. I don't know how many more signs you need down there, but I can't support your project for more signage.
Further discussion?
I guess I agree with Sean. I think we kind of need to look at this ordinance. I think that this one would be denied as requested, but I think we bring that back and look at that. Mike, I thought you brought a good point earlier that you look at Central Market. With a building that large, with a road on three sides, does the square footage sign make sense? Do we need, I mean, Holiday Gas Station, Zorba's, I mean, you could go through the list of how many businesses are on a corner. Maybe it is time to look and separate and put some different parameters around business signage. So I'd be in favor of bringing this back and looking at the ordinance and see if that would make sense.
Okay, further comments?
I think there might be a little bit of difference comparing Zorba's to Central Market, considering that Zorba's is within a neighborhood area. Has there been any objection by surrounding neighbors regarding illuminated signs in that direction towards homes? I mean, the Lakeshore side obviously isn't much of an issue, but the other sides could be an issue for neighbors.
Well, the signs that are proposed they won't be facing any residents. They both face People's Park as well as Rossman and the pickleball court. And once again, we aren't adding any additional lights we wouldn't be adding any additional lights per se to these signs. The one that would be softly backlit and LED. So it would be an indiscernible glow is the only lights, if it could even be described as that we would be adding. And right now there isn't any signage over there, and there's quite a few street lights as well. So I think if you know, we wouldn't be adding to the so-called lighting in the neighborhood.
So nothing will be facing the Summit Avenue.
No, everything faces People's.
But there are homes a block away across the park.
And the sign that would be lightly backlit is the one furthest from the apartment building that you're referencing, or the home just to the south of the apartment building, which is owned by members of our management team. Not that that should be taken into consideration because they could move, of course.
You're talking about the houses on
On north.
Forest.
Right.
Yeah, the three proposed signs are all directly north facing.
Further comments or questions?
I guess I've got a question or comment. So we are going down the path of doing a lot of artwork around town, like you pointed out. What is the difference between artwork and branding material? And I think that's probably a piece that we have to weigh out is what makes it art versus a sign, whether it's, labeled or whatever it is. And that's kind of where I struggle with whether it's branding, whether it's art, because it does mesh and it kind of gets to a point where we aren't sure when we
No,
look
it
at
could be-
certain buildings.
I agree, it could be murky. And we're doing so much in Detroit Lakes to make it, to make it vibrant and to improve the city, to improve downtown. And I know that there's been talk of, granting incentives to improve the street, to improve the curbside appeal of businesses, right? And I certainly take that very, very seriously. And the big part of this is I'm there almost every day. And I see these massive walls that can be improved upon to make Zorbas look the best that it can possibly can as well. And one of our crown jewels is the city beach. And I think Zorbas has been a big part of the success of the city beach. And we just want to continue to improve our property because it's viewed by thousands and thousands of people every single year. So I don't take that responsibility lightly. And whatever you decide tonight, I do think that the sign ordinance now, as it's currently constructed, it's flawed. And so if you don't approve this for me, I think it should be revisited for the overall growth and improvement of Zorbas and Detroit Lakes. Thank you. Freudian slip, I don't know.
There you go.
So Cole, is that gonna be a public access? I mean, so can a consumer go in that, or is that for band, like the
That's
arrows?
for band loading and unloading, and for emergency exits. But if you've seen it, I mean, it's like we have the tower on the front of the building with the properly lit Carnival Z. And then, so we want to do something much more subtle on the opposite side because it's once again, it looks incomplete and poorly conceptualized. And I need to answer to my stakeholders for that, meaning myself.
Okay, further discussion?
I just got one thing. If the neighbors don't have any issue with it, I don't know what the big deal is. I know there's guidelines that we have to have, but if you're saying the people that live in that neighborhood don't care about more signs, I don't know what the issue is.
Well, has the neighborhood been asked?
Well, obviously, they sent out the standard, this is going to be on the agenda, right? With the conceptualized versions of what would be installed. So other than that, we haven't heard anything. And once,
Everybody within 700 feet received a notice of the variance request, and we did not receive any complaints.
Okay.
So, Cole, the brightness of what you want to put on there will not be anything close to the Z on the south side of the building?
no, dramatically different. You're probably, if you were to turn on the light on your cell phone, that would be brighter.
If it's not a public entrance, why is it so important to mark it?
Well, it's facing an area where we don't have any Zorbas signs. And, once again, it's a big,
You've got
we do have some
Zs
Zs on the
side.
fence, yet. And it's a blank space that it needs to be, in my opinion, something needs to be done with it,
Okay.
frankly. And the appropriate thing is obviously to integrate that portion of our building into the overall, vibe.
Right. But you're already
Of our
over.
concept.
But you're already over what's allowed.
We are.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And a lot of those were already existing before the sign ordinance went into effect. When did it go into effect? 2016, 2017?
I'm not sure.
And I understand why it happened.
Was on that committee and the intent was so we didn't have all kinds of signs, because that was our biggest fear, is that these buildings would be oversigned.
Well, I would think that the biggest fear was, maybe things were getting carried away with the vinyl signs that would flag and rip and looked
Well, no,
improperly.
Putting up more signs.
Okay.
That
All
was
right,
the
let's vote.
biggest fear of that, and like we just mentioned, you're already over by quite a bit, with what we allowed on this. So that's my concern.
Okay, let's try to wrap this up here a little bit. Sean, you had one more
Yeah,
thing?
one really quick. Aaron, I think you had a really good question, and this was a big topic of conversation at the Planning Commission. And I think the answer, at least from my perspective, is that it's a variance, therefore it's a property right. And so is there a demonstrated unique characteristic that makes sense for that particular lot? Or is it that one business? Because we put it on there and 100 years from now, it's still here. And hopefully Zorba's is here 100 years from now. I don't want to dispute that. Your project is very tastefully presented. I'm just wondering, should we look at this holistically as the city instead of individually as one project and find something that works for both the city and for Zorba's and others?
So, sure.
Well, regardless of the outcome of the vote, I would like the Community Development Committee to take up the issue of looking at the ordinance as far as bringing it into today's world, if you will, and so if you would do that, okay. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and call the question. I think we've heard a good discussion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
And the motion is to deny. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
The motion to deny is approved. And we will send it back, Cole, to the committee, and you're certainly welcome to come and speak to the committee at that time.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yes, sir.
I'm part of this agenda. Can I just have the floor for 1 minute, please?
Sure. It's regarding the same subject, right?
Yeah, to the commission here. My name is Mike Lovelace. I'm project manager for Lighthouse Construction. I've worked on many Lake Life properties. And in Alexandria, Perham, and Cross Lake, they go by square footage of wall space, not length of frontage of property. So as you're looking through this, you might want to consider, because that's such a unique lot, it's 200 and some feet on Summit, they consider, on them three municipalities, they consider the wall space square footage in their,
Not the frontage. That's interesting.
in their figuring of
Thank you.
signing.
Okay,
Appreciate that.
we appreciate that, Mike, thank you. So without objection, I would like to continue in the Community Development Committee agenda. Matt, if you could jump down to 5D.
5D, consideration of the first reading of ordinance number 528, amending the zoning ordinance for the city of Detroit Lakes relative to cannabis businesses regarding cultivation and manufacturing. This was discussed at planning as well. It is a positive recommendation from CDC to move forward with this first reading, and I would like to move this forward.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to give first reading to ordinance 528, amending our zoning ordinance relative to cannabis businesses, cultivation and manufacturing. Discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. And also, along with that, we have something on our Liquor and Gambling Control Committee agenda, item 9A. Aaron, could we jump to 9A, please?
Yeah, Your Honor, at this time, we're gonna table this. The Liquor and Gambling Committee decided that we would like to have a special meeting with all city council members to discuss this. So as of right now, we wanna table it.
Okay, is there a second to the motion?
Second it.
Motion's been made and seconded to table. Discussion? Or don't you have discussion on a table? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
That's tabled. Is there anyone else in the audience that has an item they'd like to have me adjust? If not, we'll go right down to the top to bottom. So we'll jump back to the Community Development Committee. Or wait, now, we have I'm sorry, we got a public hearing. At this time, I'll adjourn the regular meeting and call to order a public hearing to consider the proposed assessments for unpaid streetlight fees, water, sewer, and stormwater charges. And I would call on our Public Works Director, Sean King, if there's a explanation needed here,
Or Heidi.
or Heidi, or Kelsey,
Yeah, that's actually me, or Mr.
somebody
Mayor.
other than me.
I can take that one. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this evening before you is a listing of folks who have not paid their utility bills or some of their utility bills Every year about this time of year, we compile a list of unpaid water, sewer, street light, and stormwater charges. And if those remain unpaid as of November 15th, we will assess those to property taxes as a means to collect those unpaid utility bills. We do not assess electric because those fees stay with the person who was consuming the electric. Water, sewer, stormwater, and streetlight charges stay with the property. So in your packet is a resolution. I also have the updated listing of those properties that are on the assessment roll. There's currently 17 properties. Dollar amounts ranging anywhere from $7.62 to $648.85. The grand total of all amounts that we are looking to assess, if they're not paid by that November 15th date, is $3,435.41.
All right, is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to the issue of the unpaid streetlight fees, water and sewer and stormwater charges? Hearing none, that public hearing's closed, and I would entertain a motion.
Okay, the committee's reviewed this, and I make a motion that we go ahead and adopt the assessment roll for unpaid street lights, water, sewer, and stormwater charge, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to go ahead and adopt the assessment roll for these unpaid fees. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Aaron, did you guys discuss a date to have this special meeting, or Kelsey?
We haven't made a date yet up yet, but yeah,
Okay,
We'll send something out.
okay. And now I believe we are to the Community Development Committee. Matt?
Thank you, Your Honor. Item 5A was discussion regarding zoning changes and annexation. We had another discussion last night about this. This is going to come back for discussion again in November, so then it hits the Planning Commission and then back to first reading in December for the council to chew on. So more to come on that. Item 5B is consideration of the second reading and adoption of ordinance number 527, amending the zoning ordinance, changing the maximum height of R4 limited multifamily residence district. This is the second reading of this tonight. It is bringing everything in line from the shoreland impact zone to R4 to the same height. So we discussed it at CDC last night. It was unanimous approval, and I so move.
Second it.
Motion's been made and seconded to give second reading and adopt ordinance 527. Discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that motion carries. Second reading is given, and ordinance 527 is adopted.
Thank you, Your Honor. 5C and D have already been addressed. 5E is going to be dismissed for this month. So we will not have discussion or consideration on that 5E.
Okay. Anything else, Matt?
That's all, Your Honor.
We'll move to the Public Works Committee, Chairman Zeman.
Okay, the first item A is consideration to a memo from Public Works Director to sell surplus city equipment since we're moving out of our old Public Works building to the new one. Sean, do you want to give a little review of what you plan on doing there?
Yeah, so right now we're, Mayor and Council, we are putting a list together of some surplus equipment, some equipment we've sold or purchased in the last year. So we're selling the old equipment that replaces that, such as a backhoe, skid steer. And then also with us moving out of the old building into the new building, we'll have some furniture and some stuff that we are not gonna be bringing out to the new building. So we're just asking to sell that.
Okay, the committee reviews it, and I go ahead and make a motion to approve the recommendation to have this sale.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the sale of various pieces of equipment by the Public Works Department. Discussion?
Is this all done online, or do we show up with numbers, or how does this work?
We are actually putting a list together and we're looking at having an auction
Oh, really?
at the old Public Works site.
Gotcha.
So it'll be online, plus it'll be live.
Thank you.
Further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Okay, next item B is a consideration to establish a 20-mile-hour school zone speed limit at Willow Street east near Lincoln Education Center. Be very similar to what we have at the middle school, grade school, and also over at Rossman. And we reviewed this with the speeding limit, and does anyone want to say anything else about this? We had a request from the superintendent because the kids there and the speed does get pretty fast there, so that's why they came by. The committee reviewed this and make a motion, we go ahead and approve this 20-mile-an-hour school zone.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to establish a 20-mile-an-hour school speed zone limit on Willow Street East near Lincoln Education Center. I think that says 20 miles an hour during school hours or something,
Correct,
doesn't it?
yep.
Okay. Further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries.
Okay, next item C is consideration to approving a grant agreement with the Minnesota DNR for a Forest Health and Resilience Program, and I'm gonna have Sean Schock about this information about how much that grant is.
Mayor and council, yes, this is a grant that we received from the DNR because we got a grant before. There's some leftover funds, so we were able to apply and get it again. So this is for $25,885 for planting trees on public property. And we have to have them planted and invoiced by June 30th of 2025. So we're gonna be planting a lot of trees this spring.
Nice.
Okay, the committee reviewed this, and we're happy to take that grant and put it to good use, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve a grant agreement with Minnesota DNR for Forest Health and Resilience. Discussion on the motion.
I just have a quick question. When you said on public property, excuse me, do you have some ideas of what properties you're looking at?
I know over the last several years, we have had to remove some trees in the park, some ash and some elm. So we would like to start replanting some of them trees in our parks. And walking around, you can see some gaps that we'd like to fill in.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Okay, the next item E, we'd like to table this until next month's reading. We gave Mr. Redding the wrong date for when our meeting was gonna be, so he'll be here next month, so we'll go ahead and table that until next meeting. Let's go down to item F, consideration of resolution accepting a preliminary engineering report and setting the hearing for Forest Street, also street utility improvement for that project, and I'll call on John Pratt.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is, the preliminary engineering report was included in your packet for Forest Street. We're planning a reconstruction project for the summer of 2025. This would be Forest Street from Rossman to Lake Avenue. By and large, this is just removal and replacement of street utilities with in-kind. We are looking at potentially widening a portion of that just to accommodate, better accommodate on-street parking and traffic levels through there. Things like that. There could be some challenges with widening in a couple areas, so I think that remains to be seen just a little bit, but looking at about a $2 million project, pretty heavy share for the city in this case, just because we have so much side lot footage. There's just not a lot of accessible footage associated with this project. In addition, the city has quite a bit of the abutting footage with People's Park, so pretty heavy burden on the city in comparison to some projects. We are looking at also using some municipal state aid funds. We'll advance our municipal state aid account. It's a municipal state aid street. So we'll be using that for part of the financing package. So pending your approval, we would then have a public hearing at the November council meeting.
Okay, and as John mentioned, the city does have a pretty large share of that. It's a $2 million project, and the city's gonna be responsible for $1,700,000 of that project. But it's probably gonna be our major street project for next year. Is that correct?
Right now, that's the one that's teed up.
It's
There's
teed up,
some discussion about some other ones, but yeah, right now, that's what we've got.
But the committee reviewed this, and I so move that we go ahead
Second.
with the resolution for preliminary engineering report and have the hearing. So I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt the preliminary engineering report and setting a hearing for next month's regular council meeting for the Forest Street and utility improvements. Discussion?
One question for Mr. Pratt. Looking in the PER in the packet here, it goes from Rossman to Lake.
Yes.
Is the lake to Washington still usable? That we don't need to do that section forest?
That was completed with South Washington. We reconstructed that lake.
Gotcha, thank you.
Further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, next item G is, this is consideration given to approving plans and specifications and ordering advertisement for bids for the Heartland Trailhead project, and I'm gonna have John go over that with us also.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, we've talked about this for the last couple months. This is the proposed trailhead improvements on the city-owned property between Country Inn and Suites and Casey's and Highway 10 East. The improvements, generally speaking, is a small parking lot with some public EV parking, or chargers, I should say. Small park shelter, bike fix-it station, water fountain, some benches, a porta potty screen, that sort of thing. Plug-ins for e-bikes, a little bit of lighting. That's generally the scope of the work. This was it's about a $500,000 project. We got a $400,000 grant from MnDOT through their carbon reduction program for this project. So again, we're done with the plans. MnDOT's approved. We're gonna go out for bids. Obviously, not much is gonna happen this year, so by and large, this will be work that'll be completed next summer.
Okay, the committee reviewed this, and we give consideration to approving the plans and specs and ordering an advertiser for the Heartland Trail bids, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the plans and specs and order the advertisement for bids for the Heartland Trailhead project. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, the next item is H, is consideration to accept an engineer's report and monthly projects. So I'm gonna have John give us an update on all the projects that we have left and going forward.
All right, one last item, Council. Updates on projects, really nothing to report on the street rehab or Willow Springs projects, just punch list items on that. Southwood Shore Estates, there has been a little bit of discussion with the developer on that project, but nothing has materialized at this point. West Downtown, Haug continues to make progress on that project. We still got Front Street and Lake to finish up. Front is supposed to be paved Monday of next week, curb and gutter next week on Lake. So somewhere in the vicinity of 2-3 more weeks, and I think we'll have all of that buttoned up down there. The water tower project, we've had some movement finally on that. We've got the archaeological phase 1 and the architectural phase 1 assessments complete and submitted back to SHPO. We're expecting approval of those hopefully inside of this week yet, and that will allow us and the contractor to move ahead with that. If that all comes to fruition, the contractor has indicated they would like to start on some of the site and foundation construction as soon as maybe the end of this month. So could see some activity yet this fall on that. Highway 10 East Sewer and Water, that project is complete. Sewer and water's in, and the site is restored. The other remaining projects, Heartland Trail we've talked about, Forest Street we've talked about. Westlake Drive Phase 3, we had another meeting with county and city staff met to talk about a little bit of the scoping of the project, primarily trying to nail down what exactly the section of Westlake Drive is gonna look like in the way of some widths and alignments and things like that. And I think we're getting close. Be a lot more discussion on that in the coming months here as we get that pinned down. DMR Legacy Grant, there's a number of projects there that are reached final design and they're ready to go out for bid. So there's a treehouse project that's being bid in October, as well as the trailhead parking lot improvements and a Nordic ski loop that will be lit and have permanent snowmaking capability. Those projects, I hope to get out to bid in October and come back to the council in November with bids for your consideration. So, any questions?
Any questions for John on the project report?
John, I asked you at their meeting, but a lot of people don't know what's happening with the library parking lot.
Oh, yeah, so it's being a little bit pokey, but frankly, we added that to the contract, and so Haug's been kind of working that in. Curb and gutter should be going in on that starting next week when they're here to do lake, and paving should follow shortly thereafter. So hopefully another week to 10 days, and that one should be getting pretty close to wrapped up.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to make a motion that we go ahead and accept the engineer's project report for this month, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to accept the city engineer's monthly project status report. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, I think what brings us to the Finance Committee, Chairman Josephson.
Item A, I will call on Heidi to give us a little bit of background on the improvement fund and some of the background on that.
Yes, Mayor and Council, so the resolution in front of you is to authorize the city to sell general obligation bonds 2024A. This will fund some of our street reconstruction, or not reconstruction, street rehab projects that have been going on this summer. So our 2024 street rehab project, that was kind of the one that was sprinkled all around town. Those bonds will have a 7-year term that matches up with the assessments that we also, the council also approved on that project. Another portion of the bonds will fund the Willow Springs project, which will have a 10-year term, also lining up with what those folks were assessed for that project as well. And then the third item included in this bond is the Terry Street and Dandrew subdivision project. Again, we have assessments that are going to help pay back those bonds, but we need funding up front to be able to pay those costs until those assessment funds come into us. So what the attachment does is set some of the terms of the bonds, so what the purchasers need to provide to our financial consultants, gives them some information about our bonds. And then at the November 12th council meeting date, that morning, 10 a.m., we'll receive bids on those bonds. And then at the council meeting that evening, the council can choose to either accept or reject those bids on those bonds. So that is what the authorization resolution in your packet will do.
So, thank you, Heidi. Item A is consideration to a resolution providing for the issuance and sale of approximately $4.34 million of general obligation improvement bonds, Series 2024A. Finance Committee reviewed this, recommends approval, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt a resolution approving the issuance and sale of approximately $4.34 million in general obligation bonds. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Item B, I'll have Heidi give us another synopsis of what item B is here.
Thank you. Item B is a resolution indicating the city's intent to reimburse ourselves for the costs of certain items related to our water tower project. As City Engineer Pratt mentioned, that project is looking to get underway here somewhat soon. We do not have our funding in place in hand quite as of yet, and generally projects that do require financing, we do have a reimbursement resolution, or at least that wording in a resolution already up front. However, a water tower project does not have special assessments tied to them, so we didn't have that wording in any previous resolution. So what this resolution does is allows us to spend money on this project and then reimburse ourselves through future bond proceeds, which very likely will come from the Minnesota PFA, Public Facilities Authority, in the term of, or by way of a low interest loan through them.
So item 7B is consideration to a resolution indicating official intent to reimburse original expenditures from bond proceeds. Finance Committee reviewed this afternoon and recommends approval, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt a resolution indicating official intent to reimburse on the bond proceeds. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Anything else, Dan?
Nothing further.
Okay, we'll move to the Public Safety Committee. Chairwoman Spry.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 8A is off the calendar, or the agenda, excuse me, those violations have been paid. Item B is consideration to the second reading and adoption, excuse me, of ordinance 526, creating a city code, 801.12, engine brakes. Our committee discussed this at length yesterday, I would say, and it was, everyone agreed we needed to have an exemption in this ordinance that, well, an exception, I guess is probably the right word, for emergency vehicles like fire trucks and those kinds of things that this would not apply to in terms of the sound, and the braking that occurs on Highway 10 primarily, which was brought to our attention. And so, everyone should have before them a new updated version of the ordinance, which includes subdivision 6. This ordinance does not apply to emergency personnel utilizing an emergency vehicle. The committee discussed the ordinance and unanimously recommend that the council approve the ordinance.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to give second reading and adopt ordinance 526 regarding engine brakes with the changes outlined by Wendy. Discussion?
Well, I just wanted to mention, I was in my backyard this afternoon, and the biggest wrecker I've ever seen came down Richwood Road, and he used Jake brakes all the way down, then he took a left when he got on Highway 34, and he Jake braked all the way around there too, so I'm glad we have this ordinance coming in.
Must have woke you up from your nap. huh?
I was surprised. I was surprised at the size of the wrecker.
Further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Anything else, Wendy?
No, that-
And we took care of the liquor, right?
We're good to go, Your Honor.
So Kelsey, was there something you handed out regarding the Highway 10 water and sewer extension project? Or did we already take care of this?
Oh, it was on, yeah, it was on the consent agenda,
Consent
but
agenda, okay.
it was just an updated resolution.
Okay. I do have some asks out for people on these appointments, and I should have some recommendations for the council at the November council meeting. Some information and announcement, there's a public discussion on the 2025 budget and tax levy in pursuant to our truth and taxation requirements. That's going to be on our December 10th council meeting at 6:01 PM. The Detroit Lake City Canvassing Board for the general election will be held November 5th. Or the election, which will be held November 5th. The Canvassing Board scheduled for Tuesday, November 12th at 5 PM here at City Hall. The Becker County Canvassing Board for the general election will be also held November 12th at 10:30 AM at the Becker County Courthouse, at the second floor meeting room. The Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities Fall Conference is November 21st and 22nd in Alexandria. If any of the council members are interested in attending, you can let Carrie know. The balance of the council meeting dates for 2024 are listed. The joint government dates are listed. And the 2025 city council meetings are listed as well. Is there any other city staff items that need to be brought forward to the council? Kelsey, anything?
Mayor and council is just going to introduce Dion Strapp is our new HR director. I think a lot of you have had a chance to meet him already through the committee meetings, so been here a few weeks, 4 weeks, you said, so.
We'll trade that Spud jersey in for a Laker jersey.
Welcome, Dion. If there's nothing further from city staff, Aaron, do you have anything else?
I'm good, Your Honor.
Dan?
Nothing.
Wendy?
Nothing for me, thank you.
Ron?
Yes, I have one item in that, and we've got a big vote coming up on November 5th. First of all, a lot of us are running for reelection of the council, but also we're going to have a vote for a proposed new pavilion, and we need the support of all our citizens in Detroit Lakes to propose that, to build that, and we're gonna use the local option sales tax, which is a very easy way and affordable way to, build this new, facility for us, and it's gonna have a new addition to the park with splash parks and everything, so if you don't have all the information, come in and talk to us here at the city, but it's, something that's, most needed, and I hope everybody will support it.
Yeah, just to add what Ron said, if you're interested in more of the frequently asked questions, we do have, you can access that on our city website. That's got a lot of good information. Jackie?
No,
Matt?
No, Your Honor.
Mike?
Nothing, Your Honor.
Sean?
No, sir.
Jay?
Yeah, I just want to bring up something that I think, the city's been funding the economic position of an economic development director, and I think it would be nice if the council would receive a periodic update as to her progress or her activities that, and if we could request every 3-month update to the city council, I think would be some great information for us to consider.
I'll visit with Kelsey about doing that. It's a good
Sounds
idea.
good. Thank you.
If there's nothing further, the business of this council has come to a conclusion. The meeting's adjourned.